Student debt is our wedge into wellness because it is so complex in domain expertise, but we have gone well beyond student debt. And so what's ahead for Candidly is creating first-time wealth for users who are paying down their debt and helping them have $450,000 at the time of retirement.
70% of today's seniors already know their career choices are being shaped by looming loan repayments. And by 2025, this generation will make up over 75% of the entire workforce. Student debt isn't just a personal problem anymore, it's a full-blown economic crisis. Welcome to the Learn It All podcast, the show for today's leaders who want to get ahead and stay ahead, because we believe great leaders aren't born or made, we are always in the making. I'm your host, Damon Lemby, two-time best-selling author and CEO of Learn It, a live learning platform that has helped upskill over 2 million people over the past 3 decades. Today's guest is Laurel Taylor. She's the founder and CEO of Candidly. Candidly is a company on a mission to crush student debt. Laurel and I will be discussing why student debt is now a business issue, not just a personal one. The fact that Candidly helps reduce employee turnover by up to 76%, and how AI is powering the next phase of financial wellness. So Laurel, you've helped nearly $2 billion in student debt get wiped off the map. How did this become your mission?
Yes. Well, first, Big D, I'm so excited to be here again. And I'm nervous. So for those of y'all who are joining, Big D and I go way back, like over 20 years. Big D gave me my first job. When I share with friends my career, I say Big D rolled out the red carpet for me. So gave me a shot, gave me my first job. And I'm sure we'll talk about that. But yes, so the $2 billion of impact that we have generated to date for the users that we serve really is born from my own personal experience. And candidly, it is difficult and daunting to become debt-free.
Which is the name of your company as well.
Candidly is the name of my company, Candidly. And we exist to crush student debt and empower hardworking Americans to go beyond debt into savings and retirement savings through simultaneous versus sequential progress. So what we've built as an organization is everything I wish I would have had. So I founded Candidly. I grew up in a household where I knew I was going to college, and like 70% of graduates today, I never questioned how I would do that, right? I was going to access scholarships and grants and federal loans and private loans. And I took out a loan, and my mom took out a Parent Plus loan. As a social worker, I'm making $24,000 a year. I went to Texas State. That's what we could afford. And ultimately, I went to school at MIT, and I was leading a global business unit at Google and was curious what an interest rate would be for me at the time to go back to school at a credit score north of 800, 9%, which was the same that my mom paid on a Parent Plus loan. And so, when I took a step back, and I'm so grateful for the power of education, which is absolutely the way up and out for the majority of Americans. The number of years of schooling we have unlocks additional lifetime earnings. But while I knew I would go to school, what I didn't know is that between my mom and I, we would miss out on 2 decades of compounding interest on wealth while paying down debt. And Candidly, the name also is born from having authentic conversation, because I had a lot of shame. It actually took me 4 or 5 years into founding Candidly to get over that.
Where did that shame come from?
So, I think part of it is cultural. I didn't feel like anyone that I knew when you gave me my first opportunity, my first job offer, after my ejection from my day and a half at Dell, which was a whole other story. But nobody I knew had student debt. Like, I was the only one I knew that went to a state school. Everybody else went to Ivies, and no one else seemed to be struggling with this problem. And I think parents who, we think about student debt as students, but it's mom debt. It's dad debt, it's spousal debt, it's
family debt.
It's family debt. So I also think parents have shame around debt because they wish that their kids could go to school and graduate debt free. But the reality is, with the cost of education outstripping inflation by fourfold, you know, what is it? 70% of households don't have $2,000 of savings. They certainly don't have tens of thousands of dollars, which is the cost of education today. So I think the shame is partly cultural. It's weird that we think about financing education outside of the financial services experience when it's really core of how we begin that experience. So I wanted to get over the shame, help families get over shame, acknowledge we're going to finance education unless you were really, really lucky and worked hard but are lucky to be in a position to avoid debt to send yourself or your kids to school, and wanted to help employers help their employees, given that 75% of workers today are millennials, 70% are graduating with student debt. It's the number one need within the workplace that outside of Candidly is not being addressed today. So that's how we're generating the $2 billion. It's really in partnership in community with employers who are really invested in their employees, with the providers serving employers who acknowledge that this is a major blocker to savings and retirement savings.
And because if you think about it, student debt isn't just the only type of debt that individuals have, right? There's several other ones. So it just adds on to it right there.
You're absolutely right. Yes, student debt does not happen in isolation. And when we think about the financial services industry, like the experience you may have with your bank, or CEOs, as they think about the benefits package that they're offering to their employees, they may be offering upskilling through tuition reimbursement to take advantage of AI and upskill. They are likely offering a 401k. 48% are offering a retirement match. 71% are offering tuition reimbursement to upskill. There may be maternity and paternity leave. There's this weird gap in most employers require a degree to get the job. And now most employees are bringing debt into the workplace. And so it's not only the student debt. What we see is there's a ton of other debt around that student debt. The average user we serve has a 30% interest rate on their credit cards. As an example, right? Like that's the average today.
We kind of touched on the impact it has for companies, but let's go a little deeper into that. What are some of the impacts that you're seeing working with your companies as clients that is benefiting them with the, engaging with your Candidly?
Yeah, absolutely. So we appreciate HR decision makers, CHROs, VP of Total Rewards. Almost every 10K and 10Q is about human capital as a competitive differentiation and as part of their core strategy, how they're going to win. And HR really now also thinking about, what's the human job? What's the job of AI? How do those two things interact together? What they're really challenged with today, and it's always been true, but I do think HR is in like the Olympic sport of profession right now because of how rapidly talent and skilling is changing. So they're thinking about how do they attract and retain the best talent in the world. And retain, it costs 90 to 200% of a person's salary to replace them. At least, right? At least. And if you have a 10Xer and you lose that 10Xer, it's even more expensive. So it's all about the efficacy of the benefits that they're providing. And what we see now, it's durable. The data is durable. We've been deployed across 1,400 employers, and we ingest and receive the census file of employees. So we are able to see for employees who who take advantage of Candidly as an employee benefit, it's between 33 to 76% reduction in turnover. So the strongest ROI in the benefits package they're offering is through Candidly. And I think that's super interesting because this population largely is sidelined from the employee benefits package. Probably not going back to school because they have a ton of debt and they don't want to take on more. Largely foregoing retirement savings because debt is a blocker. And largely not maximizing if they are saving. So the 33% reduction in turnover is for employees who are lean and mean and want to give their employees away to just honestly understand what the heck is going on with student debt right now. After the last 4 years, it's super confusing, and employees are looking for guidance. They're looking to lower their monthly payment, and they're looking to get into repayment to avoid. We're seeing upwards of 140 points drop in credit score right now. It's really, we are in the midst of a crisis around how employees are managing their number one liability, which is student debt. So one, tools, capabilities through Candidly, budget neutral, 33% reduction. For those who are offering a contribution, employers can now offer up to $5,250 tax-free to their employee, and as a business, just like tuition reimbursement, we're seeing a 76% reduction in turnover for employers who are offering a contribution. Average is like $150 a month. And now, just so exciting, and goes back to the story of me and my mom, what became effective January 1st of 2024 for employers who are offering a retirement match. Employers can now offer a retirement match where dollars are directed into the retirement savings plan in connection with student loan payments. So what we're seeing is employers who offer Candidly, 14% net new employees are coming into the retirement savings plan as a result of letting those employees get a retirement match on their student loan payments. So bringing in a broader population into the number one value prop that they're offering to their employees, which is in retirement savings. That's new, so we don't have the data on retention yet, but we believe that it will be between 67 to 76% reduction in turnover, similar to when the dollars are directed to the debt. Because again, the data show those who have student debt spend all of their income paying down student debt and forego that retirement match that their employer is offering until 100% of that debt is paid down. So now employees, while they have to do what they have to do, which is pay down their debt, actually get upside. And the $2 billion of savings that we've delivered to date, I'm so excited to celebrate when we get to $2 billion in first-time wealth creation by making that simultaneous progress, pay down debt and build wealth now.
So where do you see pushback from these companies when it comes to, engaging and signing up with Candidly?
So it's been a journey and an evolution, and I founded Candidly in 2016. At the time, it was a novel concept. The idea of employers offering benefits that address education financing and student debt was novel. So at the time, it was like, what are you talking about? And so we were in a 4-year period of, blood, sweat, and tears, evangelizing. This is a thing. This is going to come. It's a major need. And it was like, how we're an employer, what does it have to do with student debt? Then we transitioned into, so the sales cycle is all about education. Then we transitioned into how. How does it work? How do I operationalize this? Because I'm an HR decision maker, whether I have 25 employees or our average size today, 22,500 employees, I'm only going to do for my employees what works, what delivers ROI, and does not make my life more difficult. So this has to be easily deployable across my population. So then it really became a new category. So we created the category of benefits within the workplace to address student debt. And by the way, 45% like you, right? With Lucy and Wally, 45% of those in the workplace have kids under the age of 18. So we're helping families prepare for and plan for college, minimize the amount of debt that they take on, and then address the debt they have.
And college isn't getting cheaper.
It is not getting, sadly, it is not getting cheaper. That's for sure. My 14-year-old niece, so I'm thinking about how to help her go to school in 4 years. And now we're in that new normal. So today we are distributed by the largest financial services companies in the world: Vanguard, Empower, Schwab, TIAA, Bank of America, Lincoln Financial Group, PNC, Guild, Education, Thrilling. So Candidly is integrated alongside the 401k offering, 403b offering, so that 100 million workers now, we will be working on forevermore, 100 million workers gaining access to Candidly. So while they pay down their debt, they can build wealth. So now we're in that new, so the pushback initially was, what is this? And like, this isn't equitable. Why would I only help employees with student debt? To, oh, okay, this is like a real thing, to now we're in the top 2 of 3 requested benefits. So it's income, candidly, healthcare, or income, healthcare, candidly. Top 2 to 3 benefits today.
There's this part of your story where you bet on yourself. You left Dell after a whopping day and a half. You bought a one-way ticket to San Francisco. You moved into somebody's house that you'd never met, that I know very, very well. So where did this all come from with you? Where did you learn how to do this?
So I do think we have angels that come into our life and mentors that hopefully we all have the privilege of meeting mentors in our journey. And so, yeah, as you know, you and my sister were sitting at the, it used to be
At the bar at the W.
Exactly. That's right. I was thinking it was now the cigar lunch. Yeah, the bar at the W, and called. And I had just moved home to Azle, Texas. The day after I moved home, I started at Dell. As you know, it's kind of a fun story. And it was a day and a half in. It was computer-based training. My first day, I saw like 500 other people walk into Dell, right? We're like cattle walking in the front door, the class, the tranche of folks hired. Dell is an amazing company. And I have no doubt the other people who were sitting next to me in training have done extremely well. Everything inside of me was rejecting that experience. I just wanted to flee. I wanted to physically flee the building. I just, it was one of those visceral. So y'all called and you grabbed the phone away from my sister and said, if I hire you, I'll reimburse you for the flight. And so the next day I'm like, Mr. Limby, I'll be there at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. So it was a week-long interview, a week. Unbelievable, right? Learning the fundamentals of discipline, of how do you prospect? How do you call? How do you use your CRM system? How do you organize your day? Who are the other leaders you can learn from? And fortunately, you gave me that offer. And of course, at the time, I couldn't afford last month's in the month's rent. So, oh no, just don't worry, just move in with my sister, who I had never met, right? So here I am, Sarah picks me up at the airport. We drive into the city. I knock on the door, Sammy Limby, that scampers, he'll probably run in. And best roommate I've ever had, right? And I don't know if I would have had the confidence to do that had it not been you invested in me that week and took me on walking meetings and cared, like invested your time. So it was scary. I did move to San Francisco with a blow-up bed, which your sister had never seen because most people haven't, but that's what I could afford, right? And it just, changed the course of my life.
So what advice do you have for people who want to make a leap like that, want to get out of their comfort zone, but haven't stuck their neck out there and actually done it yet?
I think this sounds very obvious, but it's a choice. It's a deliberate choice. So that moving to San Francisco, which was actually really intimidating, taking my first job, cold calling, making 50 cold calls a day, tons of rejection, very uncomfortable. To realize that kind of rejection, getting over yourself, realizing nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Put the ego aside.
Put the ego aside. And what came to me one day when I did not want to pick up the phone, that has stayed with me ever since, when I was having a hard time picking up the phone and making a call. This is true, I think, in any major decision, was I have nothing to lose but my pride. I lost that a long time ago. Like just getting over yourself, right? And so I think at the time, really...
Talk about that a little bit more. What do you mean you lost your pride a long time ago and getting over yourself?
Yeah, I think, because when we think about risk, it's usually when we really think about it, it's if we ask 5 whys. Well, why do I not want to pick up the phone? Well, it's embarrassing. Well, why is it embarrassing? Because the person's rejecting me. Well, why do I care if the person rejects me? Well, because I need to do a better job. Well, why do I care about doing a better job? Well, maybe I don't feel like I'm good enough. Well, why do I feel like I'm not good enough? So like really going to the 5 whys, and why do I need to, I think it was just an expression that really embodied truly not standing in your own way. And the cost of pride is really expensive. When I left Google to found Candidly, that was completely irrational, made no sense. I was like a vortex for people telling me that it didn't make sense, right? Like, why would you leave the job everyone wants?
So how did you push through that? How did you push through that? Because there are so many haters out there or people who want to put up roadblocks, but you push right through that wall.
There are obstacles every step of the way. There are haters. I have, I've got them right now. Big D, I think part of it is learned, and I think part of it is innate. And so I have always had my Series B lead, Altos Anthony Lee, who's wonderful, and I'm so honored and grateful to have an opportunity to work with him. When he decided to lead our round, our Series B, he told me, you have a chip on your shoulder, and we like that. And so I've kind of always had a chip on my shoulder of like, there's just something within me that continues to raise the stakes, but also it's the power of suggestion, right? And power of expectation. So you and I walked together in San Francisco before I founded Candidly, and you made a subtle comment of like, I'm surprised you haven't already started your own thing. And so as we think about leaders, the power of expectation of, you saw something in me when I started my first job, and then when I came back to lead your sales organization, and then when it was time for me to move into the purpose of my life, which is what I'm doing now, that power of suggestion or expectation is so important. And then I think it's just a choice. It's like, I don't think that there's any magic to it. It's one step in front of the other, and realizing the biggest risk is not doing it at all. Because when we really think about the intimidation or the failure or the embarrassment, the biggest risk is being at the end of our life and looking back and realizing we never did the things that we really wanted to do and that was really important to us, and we don't have the time to do anymore. It's done. It's over. The time is gone. So I don't know. I think that was a big part of it too.
Yeah, what I hear you saying, a little bit might be either self-doubt or an imposter syndrome. And it looks like early on in your life, you learned how to step through that and realize that, hey, this is an opportunity. You don't want to look back when you're 80 years old wishing you didn't pass something up. I learned that a little bit later on in life, maybe in my late 20s or 30s even, where it's like, hey, don't pass up any opportunity if it makes sense. Get out of your comfort zone. It's okay to be okay with failure. Because at the end of the day, I call it purposeful awfulizing. You look at the worst case scenario, it's really not that bad. Now, I'm not saying I didn't take chances earlier on, but I've gotten much better at that over the years. So do you have any advice for individuals who maybe right now continue to have that imposter syndrome? I know you said some is innate, but some is learned. What's some of the learning part that somebody that you think you've had that could help others?
Yeah, I think it's a great. So I really like, and you articulated the exercise that I went through when I was at Google and I decided to found Candidly, which is, what's the worst thing that could happen? What's the worst thing that could happen? I fail. I'm embarrassed. Okay. And then most of the time when you take yourself to the worst thing that can happen, you realize it's actually not that bad. And the fallback plan of, okay, well then what would I would do? What would I go do? Okay, well that's okay. That's reasonable. So I think that exercise of taking yourself to worst case outcome is really helpful. I think the other experience that you and I share, and for me was really central to, there's part of going for it, and part of who you are as a person that, maybe you're just born with as part of your DNA or your makeup or psychology or emotional, whatever it is, formative experiences and upbringing. And then part of it is perspective being forced on you. And the perspective that was forced on me, and what really drove me to shift from, one of the best jobs in the world at Google to crossing the chasm and starting something from scratch, was, losing my sister. And when you go through loss and you are there at the deathbed, and you go through the horrifying process of all that is, wow, that gives a lot of perspective. And right. So it's like, what the heck am I doing with my life? Does it matter? Does anything I'm doing matter right now? And really coming to that, it really, I think, is the forcing function of the being concerned about failure or embarrassment is such a vanity metric for how we live our life versus like, what am I here and what can I uniquely do to make my life of value to others?
Yeah, no, and what Laurel's referring to, everyone, is her sister Sarah, who worked for me for a long time, lost her to cancer. And as tough as it is, it really helps put things in perspective. It's not the same because a sibling is different than a parent, but I felt the same experience when I lost my father at an early age. It really just makes you put it into perspective what is important in this life and how can we make an impact, and you look at the world differently. Now, we talked about this a little bit. I mean, Laurel, you've literally built a category-defining company during really chaotic times. What's been able to keep you grounded?
Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. I mean, I've been like punched in the face every day since I founded the company. And because we're operating, the problem that we're solving, we're operating in such a complex macro. But what does that mean from a product? Let me give you an example of what that means from a product, because we're a platform strategy offered as an employee benefit. So, for example, when the SAVE program was introduced, the SAVE program is an income-driven repayment program that was presented under Biden's presidency that was designed to be the most forgiving program in lowering monthly payments commensurate with 5% of discretionary income versus 10%. When that new income-driven program became available, so when workers come into our platform, we personalize the experience for that user and provide guidance on what unique programs are available to them to help them lower their monthly payment, get out of debt faster, claim a benefit from their employer. And so at the time, we had changed our algorithm so that users who were eligible for the SAVE program would see the SAVE program as one of their most compelling options, because it would lower payments, for example, from $900 a month to $65 a month. Those are real examples. So when that was available, it was part of our platform in conjunction with hundreds of other plans. Then there was a court injunction. As of maybe yesterday or the day before, the SAVE program is no longer available, period. So there have been so many changes, lots of different movements on and off the shelf of different federal programs, treatment of applications in those federal programs. And I joke that you need a PhD in mathematics and the student loan industry to understand what's happening on a daily basis. It's not funny because it's true. And the only way to really personalize the experience for the user based on changes that are happening real time is through the power of technology and AI to present those changes real time within the product experience. But what does that mean? That means that we have had to nurture various aspects of our core product every day for years in order to be able to provide up-to-date guidance at a time where 57% of borrowers don't know who their servicer is, their student loan servicer, which is where they send payments. 46% don't know how much they owe. Borrowers do not know, employees do not know. Today, we're seeing in the data that there was a 9-time extended moratorium where federal student loan holders didn't have to pay their student loans. Then there was a 1-year on-ramp. They have to pay. If they don't pay, the servicers are now reporting that to the credit bureaus. So we're seeing a 140-point drop in the credit scores of employees who may not have paid their student loans for 5 years without consequence, and now all of a sudden are not going to be able to rent in the future. So it has been thankfully for my team, we have about 105 can-doers now. We are wartime peak performers. I've learned I'm a wartime CEO. It has been wartime almost every day. Now it's wartime in both the macro and the application of AI and leading the world and moving faster than anyone else can while being secure, compliant, and appropriate for the enterprise. But my team, I so honor, and I cannot emphasize enough how deeply appreciative I am of their stamina, of rolling with the punches and being super agile and nimble and responsive every day based on what's happening real time. So it's become a real strength of the organization to be able to perform during multiple punches.
I heard you talk about your Slack channel. It's all about impact, right? And what I'm hearing is that they're modeling the behavior they see from their leader, which is you, which is so crucial. And on top of it, if you're going to be survive these days, you got to be adaptable and continuously change. And before we jumped on the air, I love the story you told me. Share that one about the little retreat your team just had.
Yes, retreat. Retreat is a very generous description, given we know what we were. I'm going to share here for the live interview a sneak peek into what kind of retreats we take at Candidly. So this would be an all-in-one.
For those of you on audio, she's showing a picture of her all in 5 shampoo, including deodorant.
So yes, it is all about impact, and that's super generous statement. I think we, as a culture, the mission really is the heartbeat of the company. The mission, some of the smartest people in the world choose to work at Candidly with a fierce work ethic because they deeply care about what we're doing, which is impacting lives at scale and offering real financial relief that delivers a measurable and powerful ROI for our clients. So we're free to the end user. We're paid for by the employer as a workplace benefit. And because we're at wartime, this was a conversation Jim Day and Anthony Lee of Altos, we were having a discussion around the speed in which AI is moving. And we decided I've always wanted to have an offsite. We're a distributed team. I've always wanted to pull together an offsite with a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal that we're targeted, we're focusing on achieving. And so our Ben Levine, who's our chief product officer, took our AI team. It was a multidisciplinary offsite with engineering, design, front end, back end, our AI team, our data science team, and we had a very specific goal, which was in 3 weeks to deliver a multi-agentic AI system and architecture that would present on the front end as a highly personalized user experience for users that are on a 401k provider's website, ingesting their tools, their white papers, their calculators, their methodology, and personalizing this AI experience consistent with the methodology of, again, one of the largest financial services companies in the world. And so Ben took his team offsite for 3 weeks to do just that. And it was and we achieved our goal. By the way, we've got a demo coming up in an hour to walk this partner through the experience and why Candidly is leading the world and can lead them into bringing AI to market, which is so thrilling. So it's a 3-week offsite. It was an eight bedroom with bathrooms, 8-bedroom, 8-bathroom lodge, couple hours outside of Seattle. And, this team, people were coming in from different places with jet lag. So front enders would wake up at 2 a.m. to action on the work that the data science and design team had created during the day. And then they would go to bed, at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning. They would wake up and the front end would be done. And the goal was radical progress in 3 weeks. It's thrilling and so exciting and a blast. And talk about the bonds built across that team from rolling out of bed and seeing each other around the kitchen table.
If I'm a CEO, small business owner, leader of a team, and maybe we don't have 15 days or 3 weeks to do a retreat, what would be one or two takeaways you recommend for them to make sure a retreat like this has the impact that you're looking for going into it?
This is the first time we've ever done this. So 3 weeks to your point, is a huge investment of time. And it was a massive experiment, an experiment that's paying forward and lots of takeaways that we're applying now across the organization, but highly unusual. So let's assume 2 days or 3 days. First, which you've already touched on, is the power of getting together. So we're a distributed team. So we're not walking into the same office together every day, but that's true for many employers across the world now. So the power of being together with a purposeful agenda that's established in advance, where there's a clear goal, it's a stretch goal, it's stressful because it's a stretch goal that is designed to stretch, but also because of that, because it's a stretch goal, there's kind of a fundamental understanding that likely the way that we would typically approach problem solving is not going to work because of the dimension of time is abbreviated. So, socializing the agenda, understanding what everyone, and also just having buy-in that it's going to be a pretty intense experience, acknowledging that it's an investment and an ask as well for people to be away from their family. So importantly, what is the impact to the company in the goal and the objective of that offsite? How does each person contribute to that goal? How does that goal contribute to the outcome of the company and to the mission of the company? And how is that going to break through and enable new possibility or greater impact? So alignment of that individual contribution to impact, I think, is really important.
Yeah, what I hear you saying, to kind of repeat that back, is set up the expectations up front. Be very clear on what the purpose and the goal is of the retreat, and also get everybody in the mindset that, hey, this is going to be a lot. This isn't just going to be, fun and hanging out. We got to get in the mindset and be ready. So when you get there, you kind of hit the ground running and get the most out of it. So I'm sure it was incredible. I know we're coming up on time, but I got a couple more questions for you. So if a CEO is listening right now who still thinks student debt loan benefits are optional, what do you need to tell somebody like that to help them understand?
Yes. So thank you. This is the number one need within the workplace today. As we think about student debt and the full life cycle of education financing, Candidly addresses now 100% of any given employer's employee population, because we're addressing the 45% who are thinking about how are they going to afford college? How are they going to send their kids to college? What can they do to better prepare for that? For those who have student debt, we know in the data that financial stress and distress costs employers over $183 billion annually. But what that looks like is, on average, 7 hours of productivity a week lost due to financial stress. The other thing is, we are all experiencing rising healthcare costs. Unfortunately, financial stress is inextricably interwoven into increased healthcare use, higher rates of depression, higher rates of anxiety. So obviously, as CEOs, we don't want to compete for mind share with our employees. We don't want them to have to walk into work thinking about all the financial stress and distress, and do what we can to help employees address that burden. And unfortunately, today is not the same as yesterday. And what I mean by that is, employers really could hit the snooze button on this issue within their workplace for about 4 years, because 92% of student loans are held by federal student loans, and there was a reprieve. Employees didn't have to pay it. Employees have to pay it now. And the average monthly payment that we see in the workplace is $800 to $900 a month per individual. So employees are scrambling to find $800 to $900 a month that they likely repurposed to multiple other needs. And then finally, if you're offering a retirement match, we will offer a complimentary retirement plan assessment to help employers understand who is really benefiting from that value proposition of a retirement match, which is a huge investment by employers. And in the retirement plan assessment, we'll also help employers see who is eligible but not participating, who's participating but not maximizing. and enable a broader set of that employee population, which tends to be a younger demographic, to actually take advantage of that value prop and take advantage of what they're already offering, but are not just not participating because of their student debt. It's table stakes. Like, if you haven't implemented a solution yet, it doesn't have to be Candidly, then you're behind, frankly, in terms of a competitive benefit stack.
So Laurel, I'm incredibly proud of you. I remember walking up the hill to go to I think it was Occidental, to get a drink with the team several decades ago, I think now almost 2 decades ago. And you've done so much. Candidly has won a ton of awards. You've spoken at Davos. You built a platform that's changing tens of thousands of lives, and so much at Candidly. What's your vision for the future, or maybe what's just the next step?
Yes. So the next step, student debt is our wedge into wellness because it is so complex in domain expertise, but we have gone well beyond student debt. And so what's ahead for Candidly is creating first-time wealth for users who are paying down their debt and helping them have $450,000 at the time of retirement just from getting a retirement match on their student loan payments. That's 4 times what boomers have today, by the way. That's Secure 2.0. That's what Secure 2.0 is enabled. Just 4 times what boomers have today if they just go work for an employer who offers a retirement match on their student loan payments. So wealth creation, help employees with their debt beyond student debt, and really help where we are right now, which is so exciting. We've gone through the process of securing and serving the largest financial services companies in the world that serve employers as their clients and the employees of those employers. Now we are in the privileged position of expanding the way that we're of service to these organizations, which is helping them get AI to market and personalize the experience across a very complex, siloed product set of financial solutions, and actually bringing that together for the user in a way that's seamless and actionable. So that's a big goal, big vision that we're super excited about.
Laurel, it was such an honor to have you here today. And like I've told you several times over the years, I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of you and all you've accomplished. And some people at Learning might get mad at me for saying this, but I would have to put you up at the very top of our success stories through our 30-year career. So you've been amazing. And to kind of recap what we talked about today, we talked about your mission to crush student debt and how it's deeply personal to you, that debt shame is real and it's also widespread. We talked about how the benefit is not just for the student or the individual with debt, but it's also, there's so much benefit out there for employers and how it helps retention. And you shared some great numbers. We talked about how you have a wartime CEO mindset and really the future for Candidly and how AI is going to impact it. So thank you once again. You are awesome. Where can our audience connect with you at to learn more?
Oh, yes. Okay. So LinkedIn, please connect with me on LinkedIn, and also getcandidly.com if you want to learn more about how we can be of service. And Big D, it was so wonderful to see you again today and have this. I'm so admire your work and have watched and listened to multiple of your podcasts, and apologize I wasn't more brief in my responses and answers. Since we go way back, I was a bit lackadaisical.
And for our audience, you should seriously look into Candidly. And maybe if you're part of the decision-making process or you want to go out, reach out to your HR, see if it's something that you can implement internally at your company, because there's benefits all the way around. And do me a favor as well. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe to the Learn It All podcast. It really helps us out a great deal. And until next time, everybody, stay curious, keep learning, and have a great day.
And I had literally never once in my life thought about going into PR. But I started thinking about it a little bit.